Good afternoon, sir. I am Mary Dayancy Flores, the leader of the group, together with my members.
I'm Mariliza Impartible.
I am Marianne C.
I'm Ronaldin S. Ihipto.
I'm Marjorie Estrada.
I'm Jeff Aaron B. Carbajal.
We are here to present to you our research entitled A
A
Phenomenological
phenomenological
Study
study
of
of teachers'
Teachers'
experiences using
Experience
lesson
using Lesson
exemplars in grade
Exemplars
6
in Grade 6.
science.
So let's go to the background of the study. According to Albe 2007, in the case of science teachers preparing students to acquire scientific knowledge as part of their daily lives is the main goal of science education. Moreover, Sadler 2011 states that science teachers should be able to assist students in overcoming the difficulties of science as they relate to actual societal problems. Price and others, 2013, pointed out in order for the students to appreciate scientific concepts in their lessons, using exemplar is an effective and innovative strategies to enrich the content and the skills of the students. While Scholes and Huxman and MacArthur 2012 describe exemplars are examples of real students' work, generally in different qualities. Exemplars and model responses are related. In the Philippines, the Department of Education Regional Memorandum in Region 4A Calabarzon 2020 cascaded in both public elementary and secondary school were instructed to prepare a daily lesson plan according to their areas of expertise and the grade level or grades they have been given. Each public school district supervisor or division education program supervisor is required to prepare one lesson exemplar using the IDEA instructional process and submit to the regional office. So let's go to theoretical framework. Theoretical guidance is required for research to comprehend the relationship between phenomena and be more productive and purposeful by Emenda 2014. According to social constructivist models of assessment, active student participation in constructing learning activities such as lesson exemplar designed by the grade 6 science teachers is necessary for the students to gain knowledge and understanding of scientific concept under the curriculum K-12 curriculum by Ross O'Donovan and Price 2010. The other theories, the pragmatists have entirely abandoned the traditional method of instruction and place a strong emphasis on the invention of new techniques. The child is the primary focus of the pragmatic educational approach, not the teacher's manual or the topic. According to pragmatists, it is the responsibility of the teacher to foster an environment in the classroom where the students will be interested in finding solutions to the various problems they will encounter in real life. Teachers are seen by pragmatists as aides, mentors, and philosophers. Next, we will go to conceptual framework.
Let's move on to the conceptual framework. Glasser's choice theory is the conceptual framework of this study. According to Glasser's choice theory, every aspect of individuals, including thoughts, feelings, physiology, and doings, is a decision. Additionally, Glasser, people can decide to form attitudes and beliefs about a situation based on their experiences. The conceptual paradigm of this study is supported by Glasser's choice theory as well as other the recent studies. To summarize, this conceptual paradigm demonstrates how people make decisions regarding their attitudes and beliefs regarding a scenario based on their teacher's experiences. Number one is pale cornflower blue, lesson exemplar. This figure one, since the lesson exemplars serve as the primary object of our research, the lesson exemplar is at the epicenter of our conceptual paradigm. Number two, steel blue. Science. Science is represented by the second circle in this figure 1 conceptual paradigm because it would be significant to the respondents' careers as teachers in their school. Number 3, dark slate blue, experience because experience represent how teachers currently teach. It is represented by the square in this figure 1 conceptual paradigm. And last one, number 4, is the navy blue, teacher. The teacher is represented by the larger circle of our conceptual paradigm in figure 1 because it shows teachers would enhance their instruction using these lesson exemplars. Let's move on to the SOP, statement of the problem.
Statement of the problem. The present research analyzes the teacher's experiences in using science lesson exemplars in grade 6. Specifically, it sought to answer the following question. Number 1. How do the teacher participants develop lesson exemplars in grade 6 science? Number 2. How do the participating teachers use lesson exemplars in their science classes? And last, number 3. What difficulties did the participants encounter in applying the lesson exemplar in their classes?
Scope and delimitation of the study. This study focused on teacher experiences of using lesson exemplar in grade 6 science. The researchers examined the experiences of teacher using the lesson exemplar in grade 6 science. The participants were 5. Grade 6 science teacher from Rosales, Pangasinan. 1 grade 6 science teacher from Rosales North Central School and 4 from South Central School. The semi-structured interview was given to the respondent to collect the needed data for the study. The method that the researcher used is phenomenology qualitative research.
Research design. The phenomenological technique was applied in the current study because it is a qualitative investigation that emphasizes the examination of participants' experiences and perceptions. According to Neuwer et al., claim that in order to understand and characterize the universal essence of a phenomenon, it is necessary to look into people's everyday experiences while also delving into preconceived notion about the phenomenon. When regard to this study, they need to understand, interpret, and describe participants and experiences using lesson exemplars are the fundamental source of data.
Now, the data gathering instrument. The researcher used semi-structured interview to gather the data needed for the study. The contained questions were derived from the ideas gathered through suggestions, discussions, brainstorming. The validation of semi-structured interview is founded on Lincoln and Guba 1985 about the trustworthiness of the instrument. Semi-structured interviews frequently have open-ended questions which promote flexibility. According to LaForest 2009, semi-structured interviews may be flexible, but preparation is crucial. It is crucial to establish their goals, create an interview schedule, and create a consent document. In, in essence, the expert judgment procedure is used to evaluate the validity and reliability of the semi-structured interview.
Next, let's move on to the sampling scheme. In this study, purposive sampling was employed because according to Kashani-Nicolopoulos 2022, a collection of non-probability sampling strategies known as purposive sampling involve choosing units for your sample based on their possession of specific qualities. In the other words, purposive sampling selects unit on purpose. Five science teachers were present in the study.
prior experience of using lesson exemplar were purposely invited to take part in this phenomenological study. Criterion sampling involved choosing situations that fit to a predetermined importance criterion passed on 2001. The following criteria were observed to invite participants in this study. A teacher who was currently teaching science in grade 6. B. A teacher who was currently teaching at one of the elementary schools at Rosales School District. C. A teacher who had 1 or more years experience of teaching science in grade 6. D. A teacher who was licensed as a teacher at Rosales School District in his or her prospective content area. And E. A teacher who are using lesson exemplars in grade 6 science. Science teacher must contain a license in order to meet these standards.
Now, let's move on to Chapter 3. This chapter includes the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data in relation to the stated problems of the study, such as personal profile of grade 6 science teacher in Rosales North Central School and Rosales South Central School, in terms of the following attributes: age, sex, highest educational attainment, number of years in service, number of relevant trainings attended in past 5 years, and position. 2. Teachers develop lesson exemplar in grade 6 science. 3. Teacher appropriate lesson exemplar in their science classroom. 4. The difficulties encountered by the participants in using lesson exemplars in their classroom. Now let's go to Table 1. As shown in Table 1, the age bracket of the female respondents from 41 to 45 comprised of 3 teachers. For 45 years old to 50 years old, there were 1 teacher participant and 1 teacher participant are in bracket of 56 to 60. Let's go to teacher's age. This column shows the age bracket of the female participants from 41 to 45 comprised of 3. From 45 years old to 50 years old, there were 1, and 1 participant are in age bracket of 56 to 60. This implied that the majority of the participants who answered the semi-structured interview about the teacher's experience of using lesson exemplar were aged 41 to 45 years old, as they are the teachers that uses lesson exemplar in their teaching. Next, the teacher's gender. The Table 1 displays the classification of the respondents' gender. They are clearly and obviously feminine, especially among the 5 responses. This implies that majority of the participants were females.
The educational attainment, it shows there are 3 participants who graduated in master degree, number of using 1 participant in graduate degree, number of unit in finished academic in it has 1 participant. The number of years in the service, it shows that 2 of the participants has 11 to 15 years in service. And another 2 participants has 16 to 20 years in service, and 1 participant has 31 to 35 years in service. The number of relevant training of the past 5 years, it shows that most of the participants has 20 trainings in past 5 years, and only 1 of them has 0 trainings. And the position as shown is the table above. There is 1 teacher 2, 2 teacher 3, and 1 master teacher 1 and master teacher 2.
Team 1, Teacher's Preparation of Lesson Exemplars. In Team 1, we have 6 questions to ask to the participants. Questions number 1, how do you write a lesson exemplars? Most of the participants answered that writing in lesson exemplars, there are following parts of it to be considered. While other participants answered that in writing lesson exemplars with objectives identifying the knowledge and skills. Question number 2, what are the essential you considered in preparing lesson exemplars? Based on the 5 participants, answered that demonstration and strategies are the essentials they considered in preparing LE, and one of them answered that in science, the 5E instructional model, which are the engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. Question number 3, what other materials or things that you need in writing lesson exemplars? According to the participants' responses, learning resources or instructional materials are they needed in writing lesson exemplars. Aside from resources, other materials need is the task related to the topic as well. Question number 4, what approaches and strategies do you consider in preparing lesson exemplars? The participants use a variety of approaches and strategies in considering preparing a lesson exemplars. Most of the participants answered inquiry-based, while the other use is standard-based and child-centered. Question number 5, how do you prepare yourself in delivering a lesson exemplars? The participants prepared themselves in delivering a lesson to LE in different ways. Though most of them answered that the learning objectives are the first one they prepared. And the last one, questions number 6, likewise, how do you prepare your students in employing lesson exemplars? The participants answered that overview of the lesson, explain the objectives, introduce the lesson by giving exercise activities, and to the motivation, they prepare their students in employing LE. Moreover, instructional materials have to help to increase active participation in the learning process while saving teachers' energy, reducing the teacher-centeredness in teaching. In the same way, Matthew 2012 states that the use of instructional materials make teaching effective as it enables learners to participate actively in classroom instruction. All these views suggest that the use of instructional materials can improve students' performance.
And Team 2, teachers utilize of lesson exemplar in their science classroom. In Team 2, there are 5 questions in the participants. Question number 1, how do you use lesson exemplar in teaching science in grade 6? Can you give instances when you need to employ lesson exemplar in your class? This indicates that using lesson exemplar in teaching science in grade 6 contains detailed description of the steps a teacher will take to teach a particular topic. It can provide students with information, skills, and tools that are very necessary in order for them to learn. Question: how often do you use lesson exemplar and why is it so? As we can see, 4 out of 5 of the participants use lesson exemplar during their demonstration in their class. As we all know, demonstration method is used to communicate an idea with the aid of visuals such as poster, chart, PowerPoint, etc. It is teaching someone how to make or do something in a step-by-step process. Question number 3. What is the importance of using lesson exemplar in the delivery of the science lesson? The participants clearly stated that lesson exemplar is very important not only for them but also for their students. In many cases, lesson exemplar provides a means of making complex criteria more comprehensible to students. And question number 4, what experiences have you learned in employing lesson exemplar? Based on the experiences of the participants, they learn a lot in employing lesson exemplar. For them, it is an exceptional example of a teacher roadmap for a lesson. because it contains a detailed description of the step a teacher will take to teach a particular topic. By employing lesson exemplar, students understand the qualities of mastery of the lesson. And last, question number 5. What recommendation do you suggest in the proper execution of lesson exemplar? As suggested by the participants, as a teacher, effective preparation can lead to better results and proper execution of the lesson exemplar. One critical component of effective teaching and preparation and planning. Teachers should always plan enough so that students remain engaged in their learning and maximize. Teachers play a vital role in creating an environment that support student learning. They often do this through their support for students' autonomy. Kitima et al. 2016. Teachers enable students to identify with self, personal interests, and values by supporting their freedom of choice. Ferlazo 2015. By supporting student choices and interests, teachers help students develop personal interest, involvement, and ownership of their work, which aid in motivation. Johnson 2017.
Let's move on to the theme 3. Difficulties encountered in using lesson exemplar contains 5 questions. Question number 1. What difficulties have you encountered in making lesson exemplars? Based on the participants' responses, it can be observed that time is the challenge that they encountered most because preparing lesson exemplar takes a lot of time. According to one of the participants, sometimes lessons never go according to plan and they spend a lot of time on the motivation part. In question number 2, how did you overcome the difficulties in writing challenges they encountered in writing lesson exemplars? Most of them answered that time management was their way to cope with this. Nevertheless, one participant responds that asking help from experts and making lesson brief but full of activities are the ways to overcome it. In question number 3, what other difficulties have you experienced in employing LE? As can be seen, another problem some of the participants had while using lesson exemplar was developing learning resources. Due to the fact that preparing it, such as developing lesson exemplar, takes a lot of time. Moreover, because might be challenging to come up with activities that are relevant to the lesson. Developing relevant activities is considered another problem for teachers. Question number 4, what remedies have you encountered to address employed to address these difficulties? The participants address these difficulties in different ways. Although one of them responds that strategies, approaches, and managing time can be the remedies to address this. This help them to solve the challenges and problems they encounter. Question number 5. Are these instances that LE is not effective? Why it is so? Based on the participants' responses, the lesson exemplar is effective. Nevertheless, one of them answered that lessons may take day or week. Longer lessons need more time to hence some steps and lesson exemplar is not possible. Overall, the data shows that the main challenge and problems they encountered is time. Time in making lesson exemplar, preparing learning resources, and to the delivery of the lesson. Thus, time management is significant in development of lesson exemplars in grade 6 pupils in science. As Horn 2010 and Master 2013 reported that time management is an important element for teachers' effectiveness and schools' result. Two main components of time management are planning and scheduling of work. Time management refers to using time effectively and productively, a synonym of for efficiency. Good time management makes it possible for one to make the most out of every minute. Time management is very much needed by teachers who have files of workload aside from personal teaching.
Now, let's move on to Chapter 4. Summary of findings and conclusion and recommendation. Summary of findings. This chapter presents the summary, conclusions, and recommendations. The present research analyzes the teacher's experience of using lesson exemplar in grade 6 science. Specifically, it sought to answer the following questions. First, how do teacher participants develop lesson exemplars in grade 6 science? Second, how do the participant teachers use lesson exemplar in their science classes? Third, what difficulties did the participants encounter in applying the lesson exemplars in their classes? This study identified the teacher's experience of using lesson exemplar in grade 6 science. It considered various kinds of components such as the teacher's preparation of lesson exemplars, teacher's utilization of lesson exemplar in their science classroom, and difficulties they encountered in using lesson exemplar. Participants in this study are grade 6 science teachers from Rosales South Central School and Rosales North Central School who are teaching grade 6 science using lesson exemplar. To identify and address the research question that this study seeks to discover, the researcher used phenomenological and qualitative research methods. Written and recorded interviews were used to collect the data needed, and a semi-structured questionnaire that was approved by 4 science master teacher was used. Thus, the information required for this study, data collection, presentation, analysis, and interpretation was completed.
Number 1, what is the demographic profile of the teachers along with age, sex, highest educational attainment, number of years in the service, number of relevant trainings attended in the past 5 years, and position. The demographic profile of teachers in terms of age are distributed in different stages, meaning age can be related to their experience and number of years in the service. In sex, all the participants are female, meaning all the teachers participants having experience in using lesson exemplar are female. In highest educational attainment, teachers who are better educated have better abilities to teach students in using lesson exemplars and better engage the student in the process of meaningful learning. In the number of years in the service, it indicates that they have more experience in teaching as well as using lesson exemplar. Number of relevant trainings attended in the past 5 years means that teachers having a lot of trainings attended trained very well to teach the student, and the position evidence that they are effective teachers in the field of education. Number 2, how do the participants develop lesson exemplar and grades 6 science? The teachers develop lesson exemplar in different ways. They consider essentials in preparing and materials they needed in writing the lesson exemplar. Teachers have their strategies and approaches to engage their student in the learning process, and they prepare themselves as well as their student before employing lesson exemplar. Regardless of the challenges they encountered, until they able to develop effective lesson exemplar in teaching science.
Number 3, how do how do the participant appropriate lesson exemplar in the science classroom? The teacher are using lesson exemplar during demonstration. However, one of them use it in daily teaching. They use lesson exemplar since it has a lot of benefits that a student will get. Lesson exemplar is important because it develops the student science process skill and communication skill. It improves their knowledge and performance through is the lesson explained clearly and engage student in the class. Furthermore, teacher benefits in using lesson exemplar because of the experience they have learned while using it. It's shown that teachers are using lesson exemplar not just to deliver a lesson, but to fully engage the student and provide them the skill needed. They recommend that plan and preparation are needed before employing lesson exemplar to make the delivery of the lesson well organized. Number 4. What are the challenges encountered by the participant in using lesson exemplar in their classroom? The challenge encountered by the teacher in using lesson exemplar in their classroom includes time in preparing the lesson exemplar and learning resources, as well as lesson never always go according to plan. Teacher experience many problems, but they have different approach and ways on how they overcome it. This indicates that time is very important in the preparation of lesson exemplar. Teacher need to manage their time. Teacher always manage their time always to make the lesson concise but meaningful. Additionally, lesson exemplar is effective even though some steps are not possible. Overall, time management is significant in the development of the lesson exemplar in teaching science.
Conclusions. Based on the findings of the study, the researchers came to certain conclusions. First of all, because developing a lesson exemplar is difficult, it requires a lot of effort and time. Second, lesson exemplar is crucial for teaching science since it improves student knowledge and abilities. Third, using lesson exemplar in science is effective because both students and teachers gain from using it. Finally, the researchers draw the conclusion that teachers encounter difficult problems and carry significant responsibility because they mold and shape students while holding their future in their own hands.
Recommendation. Based from the conclusion of the study, the following are hereby recommended. Number 1. Teachers should always manage their time in accordance to preparation of lesson exemplar to deliver the whole lesson in exact time. Second, conduct teacher training program on how to manage time in developing lesson exemplar. And last, number 3, participants of the study should conduct a program where they can share their experience in using lesson exemplar to other teachers. The researchers came into the conclusion that if lesson exemplar is effective, other teachers should know for them to have an opportunity to use it in teaching.
And that's the end of our presentation.